In the last session, we discussed about debugging. So what is debugging? It is the process of executing the code line by line. It's called debugging. What are the advantages with debugging? We can understand execution flow of a program and we can execute the code line by line. If code is not working, we can find what is the problem in the code and we can fix the problem. As a developer, debugging is very, very important for us. Without having this knowledge on debugging, you cannot work on your project. Are you able to debug your programs? Yeah. What are the shortcuts we have used? F5, F6, F7, F8 shortcuts we have used. What is a drop to frame? What is a drop to frame? When the method is under execution, we can restart that method by using drop to frame. Can we change values of the variables in the debug mode? Yes. So when the program is under debugging, we can modify the values of the variable also. Why we need to modify values of the variables in the debug mode? Testing purpose. If you want to test some conditions by supplying some random values, then you can change the value also in the debug mode. Perfect. Now, so from today onwards, we are going to start with another concept, another important concept for every Java developer, that is servlets. So in advanced Java, this is our part 2. JDBC already completed. So now by using core Java, what we can do, guys? We already learned core Java, right? So what is core Java? What we can do by using core Java? Come on. What we can do by using core Java? It is used to develop standalone applications. It is used to develop standalone applications. We can also call as console-based applications, CUI-based applications, and GUI-based applications can be developed by using core Java. Then after we have seen JDBC. What is the purpose of JDBC? JDBC, it is used for Java database connectivity. By using Java program, we can communicate with the database by using JDBC. JDBC will be acting as a mediator between Java and database. So for every application, database will be available to store the data permanently. From Java program, I want to store the data or I want to retrieve the data. I want to perform some operations on the data. For that, we will use JDBC as a mediator. Now, today we are going to start with our servlet. So what is this servlet? What is a servlet? Servlet, it is used to develop web applications by using Java. It is used to develop web applications using Java. As of now, we developed our Java applications which contains a main method and we will run our program by using command prompt. Compile the program, run the program by using command prompt. The program execution will start from main method. But from today onwards, we are not going to use any main method. Main method is not required from today. The reason, we are going to develop web application. So what is today we are going to understand what is the web application and what is the web application architecture and how to set up our environment to develop web applications and what is the HTTP. To develop a web application by using Java, first we need to understand some theoretical concepts related to web application development, right? What is a network? What is a protocol? What is HTTP request? What is HTTP response? What is a server? What is the deployment? How to deploy the project into server? Lot of concepts we need to understand first, then only we will go for servlet development. Are you getting my point? Yes. So our main agenda for next 15 to 20 days is web application development by using servlets, right? Now, what is a servlet? Come on. Servlet, it is a technology. It is a technology given by Sun Microsystem. This servlet is used to develop web applications by using Java. As of now, we have used our core Java or we have used JDBC. JDBC is a part of JSE API only. First time we are going to use JEE API, Java Enterprise Edition. JEE stands for Java Enterprise Edition. So this JEE contains Servlets API and JSP API. JEE contains Servlets API plus JSP API. Servlets is used to develop backend part of our web application. JSP is used to develop front-end part of our web application. So if you want to develop a web application by using Java, then this servlets technology is mandatory. Even if you go for Spring also, if you go for Spring Boot also, Spring and Spring Boot will internally using servlets only to develop the web applications. Servlet is the base technology for Java developers to develop a web application. Now, can you tell me what is a web application? Yeah, we already discussed in the advanced Java starting sessions. What is web application? Can anyone tell me what is a web application? Come on, guys. What is a web application? The application which runs inside a server is called as web application. Standalone application means it will run in only one computer and only one person can access at a time. For example, in my laptop, calculator is available. Can you use this calculator? No, it is available only in my computer and only I can access this calculator. So this calculator is a web application. Calculator is a standalone application. Calculator is a standalone application. What is the meaning of standalone application? Only one user can access at a time. But today the people are interested for web application. Now I cannot develop and give the application for everybody. I will develop one application. Everybody should be able to access same application. Facebook, person to person Facebook is different. Our application is only one. Application is only one, but multiple people are able to access our Facebook application. Now, what is web application? The application which can be accessed, any application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. Come on, tell me, what is web application? The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. Web applications runs inside a server. Web application runs inside a server. Sir, what is a server? Server is also a program which is used to run our web application. Server is also a program. As of now, our program is running by JRE. From today, our programs will run by server. Server will run by JRE. Are you getting my point? So in the core Java, in the JDBC, we developed the program, we compiled and we executed by using Java command. From now onwards, are we going to execute the web application? Server will execute the web application. Server is going to execute our web application. So what is a server? Server, what is a server? Server is a program which is used to run our web applications. Server is a program which is used to run web applications. Now there are so many servers available in the market. So one of the famous server for Java web applications, that is Apache Tomcat. Apache Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, Glassfish, etc. These all are called as servers. These servers are softwares which are used to run our web application. If you develop a web application by .NET, For that also server is required. For Python web application, server is required. Node.js web application, server is required. Java web application, server is required. So whatever the web application we are developing, that web application should be deployed inside a server. Server is a program which is used to run our web applications. Application will be developed by servlet. That servlet will be executed by server, right? Now, web application architecture. First, we need to take a computer. Assume that our laptop or our system. In our computer, operating system will be available. What is operating system? Operating system is OS. Huh? What is OS? Operating system. What is operating system? Come on. What is the purpose of operating system? What is the purpose of operating system? Come on, guys. Correct. Operating system is acting as a interface between users and computer hardware components. Operating system acting as a interface between user and computer hardware components, right? So we will take a computer. In that computer, every computer will have one operating system. Without operating system, we cannot use the computer. That operating system can be either Windows operating system or it can be Linux operating system. As a developer, we should know how to work with Windows as well as Linux also. The reason is, in the company, while developing the code, we will use Windows operating system. Once our development is completed, our projects will run in the Linux operating system. So as a developer, you should know how to work with Windows as well as Linux also. For every software engineer, basically for developers and for DevOps people, for administrators, Linux is very, very, very important. Project development will happen on our personal computer. Company will give you one computer with Windows OS. You will write the code. Once the coding is completed, project execution will happen on the Linux operating system. Linux is far better than Windows operating system to execute our projects. Going forward, we will work with Linux operating system as well. Now, I will take one machine. In that machine, we are going to install operating system, either Windows or Linux. Now, in this machine, we need to install a server that is called web server. Web server, nothing but it is used to run our web applications. There are so many servers available in the market, especially for Java people. There are so many servers are available in the market like Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere. Server is a software. We are going to install server software in our computer. Once the server software is installed in the computer, we need to deploy our application inside the server. So now, whatever the application we are developing, that application will be packaged as a WAR file. Now, first we are going to develop Java programs. We are going to develop Java programs in the project. Multiple team members will be available. So multiple programs we are going to develop. Multiple Java programs we are going to develop in a project. It can be 100 programs, 1000 programs, 10,000 programs also, depends on project requirement. If you talk about Gmail, so many programs will be available. IRCTC, lot of functionality is there. Lot of programs will be available in the IRCTC. So whatever the code that we are writing, the code is called as source code. We are developing the source code. We are the developers. So now in a team, multiple developers will be available. All the developers code will be integrated at one place. That is called source code repository. What is that? source code repository. Now, multiple developers will be available in the project. All the developers code will be integrated in the source code repository. That source code repository, we are using GitHub. In the real time, people will use GitHub. GitHub is going to use as source code repository. So if you see, whatever the projects we are going to develop, the project source code we will store in the GitHub repository. I will be working from Hyderabad. My team members are working from Bangalore. Some team members are in the Chennai. Some team members are in the US. We are working for same project from different locations. I will be working on some functionality. My team members are working on some other functionality in the same project. But at the end of the day, my code, my team members' code should be available at one place. That's where we are going to use GitHub. Now, if you see Spring Boot MySQL application, here, whatever the source code is there in the project, all the source code is available in the GitHub repository. So tomorrow, when you join in the company also, whatever the code you write, that code you need to keep in the repository. Some companies will use GitHub. Some companies will use Bitbucket as a repository server. Fine. So in that repository, all the source code is available. Java programs are available. Those Java programs we are going to compile. When we compile the Java program, we are going to get .class files. Okay. Java program will be available. When we compile that Java program, we are going to get .class files. So who is going to compile our Java programs? Server will compile. Maven, Gradle. Right? So today we are developing a program. Whatever the program we are writing in the IDE, our programs will be compiled by default in the IDE. So when you write the program in the notepad, you need to compile the Java program by using Java C space class name.java. You have 10 classes, you can compile. When you go for IDE, IDE will compile your programs automatically. But tomorrow in the real time, whatever the programs we are developing, programs will be available in the Git repository. DevOps people need to compile our classes, need to deploy the project in the server. We are responsible for development. DevOps people are responsible for operations. Operations means they will download our code, source code nothing but .java file. They will download the source code. They will compile the source code, they will package that, and they will deploy that. Who is responsible for deployment of our project? DevOps people. What is our responsibility? Developing the source code. Develop the source code and test the source code. Whatever the code you develop, is that code working as expected or not? You have to test it. Once your code is working as expected, our code will be stored into GitHub repository. GitHub is called as repository server. We will discuss in the coming classes what is GitHub. So here our code will be available in GitHub. GitHub is a repository for us. Now here developers assume that the project can have multiple developers. They will develop the source code. Nothing but we will develop .java programs. All the .java programs we will store into GitHub repository. How to store into GitHub, that we will discuss in the tools classes. How to work with the GitHub and all. For now time being, assume that development team is available. Development team writing the code, storing in the GitHub. Once the code is available in the GitHub, we are going to download that code from the GitHub. So when you download the code from the GitHub, we are getting Java programs. So can we run the Java program directly? No, computer cannot understand. That Java program should be converted into bytecode. So once you convert that into bytecode, we are getting .class file. Once we get that .class files, we need to package our .class files as a WAR file. We need to package our application as a WAR file, either jar or WAR. Standalone applications will be packaged as a jar file. We already seen how to create a jar, how to run the jar file. Jar files are used for standalone applications, whereas war file is used for web application. When you develop a web application, to run the web application, we will create a war file. WAR stands for web archive. WAR stands for web archive. Once that WAR file is created, we need to deploy that WAR file into server. Whatever the WAR we created, that WAR file we need to deploy inside the server. Application.war. .war is the extension. Where we are keeping that WAR file? WAR file we are keeping inside the server. What is a server? What is a server? Server is a program which is used to run our web application. What is a web application? What is a web application? The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time. Any application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. How to develop web application in the Java? How to develop a web application in the Java? By using servlets. What is a servlet? Servlet is a JEE technology which is used to develop web applications by using Java. If anybody asks you what is a servlets? Servlets is a JEE technology which is used to develop web applications by using Java. Web application means the application which runs inside a server. Server is nothing but a program which is used to run the web application. So every web application will be packaged as a WAR file. That WAR file we will deploy inside a server. Now that server will be available inside one machine. Server will be available in the machine. That machine will have one IP address. IP address : port number will be available and app name will be available. Like this, one URL will be generated for our application when you deploy that into server. We install MySQL server. What is the port number for MySQL? We have installed MySQL database in our computer. MySQL database having a port number, right? What is the port number for MySQL? 3306. That is the port number. That means the software that we are running in the computer is called one process. Every process will have one port number, process ID. Okay. For MySQL, 3306 is the port number. If you go for Oracle, 1521. Oracle is using 1521. Similarly, whenever we deploy, whenever we install one server in our system, server will use port number. If you install Apache Tomcat, the Tomcat port number 8080. Apache Tomcat port number 8080. Now, here assume that I have taken a computer. In my computer, I am using operating system. Inside that operating system, I am installing a server. Inside that server, I will deploy my application as a WAR file. When we deploy application in the WAR file in the server, one URL will be generated for the application. http:// IP of the computer where your server is running, and what is the port number of the server, and what is the name of your application. With that, one URL will be prepared. Once that URL is prepared, users can access our application. Now, the users who are accessing our application, they are called as clients. The users who are accessing our application called as clients. Now, here client means he will use one computer. He will use one computer in order to access our application. Assume that this is one laptop which is using by this user. Now, like this, multiple users can access our web application at a time. Now, the person who is using a computer, that person will send a request to our server. That person will send a request to server. Sir, what is the meaning of sending a request? Here we are going to Google and we are typing www.gmail.com. That means I'm acting as a client. I'm accessing Gmail project. Where is that Gmail project? It is running in the server. Where is that server? In one computer. Where is that computer? We don't know. Do we know where is that computer? We don't know. Somewhere in the US, Google is maintaining their infrastructure. They have taken some computer and in that computer they installed operating system. 100% it is Linux. In the real time, projects will run in the Linux operating system. Now, how we are accessing that Gmail project? I'm acting as a client. I'm using one computer. I'm opening a browser. I'm typing gmail.com. I'm getting a response. I sent a request and I received response from the Gmail. Like this, here clients will be available for our application. Clients will use a computer and clients will send a request to our project. Our project means it is running inside a server. So client will send a request to the application and the server will send response to the client. Request will be available and response will be available. So here request and response. So here client and server are communicating. Client, I am in Hyderabad. Gmail server is available in the US. From my system, I'm able to send a request to Gmail system. In order to send the request and receive the response, there is a network. Systems are connected through internet. Gmail project running in one computer. I am using one computer. From my computer, I'm able to access a Gmail project. So my computer and that Gmail server computer connected to internet. Then only we are able to access. Now, how many users can send the request like this? Only one person or multiple people? Multiple people can send the request at a time for Gmail. Who is going to process this request? Server. Gmail application is running inside a server. Server is a program which is processing the request sent by the client. I am a client. I'm sending a request to the Gmail. Gmail taking my request. Gmail processing my request. Processing the request nothing but executing the code. Request processing nothing but executing the code. It executed that code and it sent some response back to me as a web page. Okay. Client is communicating with the server. Client is sending a request to the server. Server is sending response to the client. How I am sending request? By using browser, internet, www.gmail.com. I got one web page as a response, right? So multiple clients can send the request to the server at a time. Server can process multiple requests and can send response to the users. So this is typical web application architecture. So here what we need to do is how to develop a web application, how to compile that web application classes, how to package a WAR file for our web application, how to deploy WAR file to the server, and how to send a request and how to send the response from the application. For next 15 to 20 days, our task is this one only. First, we need to install one server to run our web application. Can we run a web application without server? Can we run a web application without server? No, we cannot run the web application without the server. So now multiple developers will be available. Multiple classes will be developed by development team. Where we will store the project source code? In the GitHub. GitHub is a repository server. So now as part of development, we will develop the program, we will compile, we will package, we will deploy, we will test. And if everything is working fine, then our code will be stored into GitHub. Once our code is stored into GitHub, Who will do that deployment activity? DevOps people are going to do that deployment activity. Now here, developing the Java program, compiling the Java program, packaging the Java program every day is a time-taking process. To automate this compilation and this packaging deployment, we have built tools like Maven and Gradle. Tomorrow you will understand what is a build tool. But normally, as a developer, we are responsible to develop the programs, compile the programs into .class files. Once the .class files are created, we need to package the .class files as a WAR file. If it is a standalone project, we will go for jar file. If it is a web application, we will go for WAR file. Once the WAR file is created, that WAR file we need to deploy into server. Server is a program which will execute our web application. Once our application is running in the server, then users can access the application by sending a request. User will send a request, server will process the request, and the server will send a response. What is the meaning of sending a request? Accessing the application, clicking on the button, that is called request sending. What is the meaning of request processing? Executing the code. Executing the code is nothing but request processing. Who will execute the code? Server. Server will execute the code and the server will send response to the client in the web format. So now when I send a request at www.gmail.com, what response I got here? I got one web page. I got one web page. Now, if I go to zoom.us, for example, I am sending a request to Zoom server. I got one web page. And if I click on my account, another web page will be loaded. And if I click on solution, some other menu is opening. If I click on products, some web page is loading. So here I'm clicking on the buttons. When I'm clicking on the button, when I click on the button, one web page is loading. When I click on the button, web page is loading. Who is sending this web page? Where is this web page? This web page is in the project. When I send a request, server will process that request. Server will send the response to me. So the person who is accessing the application is called client. Now, we all are clients for Zoom. We all are clients for Facebook. We are clients for Gmail. We are accessing web application, nothing but we are acting as a client. We are sending a request to the server. Server is processing that request and the server is sending the response. The response can be anything. You may get web page as a response. You may get some text as a response. You may get one PDF as a response. You may get one Excel as a response. You may get one image as a response. You may get one web page as a response. Depends on the client request, server will decide which response it has to send to the client. You are a client and you will send a request to the server. Server will process that request. Server will send that response. Okay. Now here, server is going to execute our web application. That web application should be developed by using servlet. Server will run our servlet. Servlet is a server-side technology. HTML is client-side technology. Servlet is server-side technology. Server-side technology means that the servlet program will be executed by server. Are you clear? Can you look at the diagram? So once you develop a web application, people can access directly or we need to deploy? We need to deploy. What is the meaning of deploy? Deploy nothing but keeping our project WAR file in the server is called a deployment. Any web application we develop, that web application WAR file we need to keep in the server. The process of keeping WAR file in the server is called deployment. Once we deploy the web application, then users can access our web applications. Are you clear with my point? Yeah, make some note. From today, keep heading servlets. Side heading servlet. Servlet is a technology. Servlet is a technology given by Sun Microsystem as part of JAA API, which is part of JAA API. Servlet is a technology given by Sun Microsystem, which is part of JAA API. Servlet is a technology given by Sun Microsystem, which is part of JAA API. Servlets technology is used to develop. Servlets technology is used to develop web applications using Java. Servlet technology is used to develop web applications using Java. Servlets technology is used to develop web applications by using Java. Right. So what is a web application? What is web application? What is web application? The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. Example: Gmail, Facebook, Naukri, IRCTC. These all are the examples for web applications. The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. Web applications are used for customer to business communication. Web applications are used for customer to business communication. Web applications are used for customer to business communication. This is called as C2B. This is called as C2B. Web applications are used for customer to business communication. This is called as C2B. What is the meaning of customer to business communication? Come on, guys. What is the meaning of customer to business communication? Users will communicate with the applications directly. That means end users can access the application. End users can access application directly. Now, I'm an end user. Flipkart is doing e-commerce business. Flipkart is selling some products. They are doing the business. Selling the products is their business. I'm an end user. Can I directly access Flipkart? Can I purchase the product? Yes or no? That is nothing but whatever the business that company is doing directly with the customers. There is no mediator. There is no mediator. I'm an end user. I can directly access the Flipkart website and I can purchase a product. That is called customer to business communication. Customers can directly communicate with the business by using that web application. Now, IRCTC available. They are selling train tickets. IRCTC is selling train tickets. That is a government project. Can I directly book a train ticket in the IRCTC? Yes or no? So I'm a customer for IRCTC. I can directly book a train ticket in the IRCTC. So here, customer directly communicating with the business by using web application. So web applications are used for customer to business communication. So the application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called web application. Web applications are used for customer to business communication. Now, every web applications will run inside a server. Web application 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 will run inside a server. What is a server? Server is a program which is used to run web applications. So here the names I have given, these are Java servers. These servers are used to run Java applications. Web application will run inside a server. Server is a program which is used to run web applications. Separate. If you go for .NET, IIS server will be available. Server is a program. Server is a program which is used to run web applications. Server is a program which is used to run web applications. Example: Apache Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, Glassfish. These all are called as Java servers. Java servers. These are servers to run the Java applications. We'll compare. Server is a program which is used to run the web application. Now, note down web application architecture. Web application architecture. Web application architecture. In web application architecture, mainly two actors will be available. In web application architecture, mainly two actors will be available. In web application architecture, mainly two actors will be available. One is server and the second one is client. Web application architecture. In web application architecture, mainly two actors will be available. First actor is called as server. Second actor is called as client. Now tell me, who is client? Who is a server? Client means a person or a system which will access the application running inside a server. What is a server? Server is a program which is responsible to process the requests coming from the clients. Now note it. Client means a person or system which will send a request to server to access web application. Client means it can be a person or it can be a system which will send request to server to access web application. Client means a server, or client means a person or it can be a system which will send request to server to access web application. Client means a person or a system which will send request to server to access web application. Client means a person or a system which will send request to server to access web application. Then what is a server? Server is a software, or we can say program, which is responsible to process requests and send response to clients. Client means a person or a system which will send the request to server to access web application. Server is a software, or server is a program which is responsible to process request and response to clients. Client means a person or system which will send request to server to access web application. Server is a software which is responsible to process request and send response to client. Can server process multiple requests at a time? Yes, note. Multiple clients can send a request to the server at a time. Multiple clients can send request to server at a time. Multiple clients can send a request to server at a time. Client means a person or a system which will send the request to server to access web application. So we need to assume that we are the clients. Every day we are accessing so many applications. So we are clicking on the button. That means a request is going to the server. Server will process that request and server will send response to the client. Server means a software which will execute our project, which will take our request, which will process our request, which will send response to the client. So what is the meaning of request processing? What is the meaning of request processing? Executing the program. So when I click on the login button, login functionality will be executed by the server. So login functionality code is available in the project. Project will run in the server. When we send a request to the server, server will process that request and server will send the response. So when multiple people send the request, all the requests will be processed by the server and will send the response to the client. Multiple clients can send the request to server at a time. Okay, now take this diagram. Forget about this GitHub and all. Yeah, guys, look at the diagram. You add it, compile, package, and deploy. Yeah, completed. Yeah, just read it all the basic part first, revise. Come on, first, quickly revise that. So what is a servlet? What is servlet, guys? Servlet is a technology given by Sun Microsystem, which is part of JW API. Servlet technology we are learning for which purpose? What can we do by using servlet? Servlet technology is used to develop web applications by using Java. Okay. Now, what is a web application? The application which can be accessed by multiple users at a time is called as web application. So examples we know, web applications are used for customer to business communication. What is the meaning of customer to business communication? End users can access our web application. Multiple users can access our web application at a time. So now here, whatever the web application we are developing, that web application will run inside a server. That means server is responsible to run the web application. If it is a normal Java application, programmer is responsible to run that. From today, our programs should be executed by server. Server is responsible to run our programs. What are the servers available in the market? Apache, Tomcat, JBoss, WebLogic, WebSphere, Glassfish, etc. Like this, there are so many servers are available in the market. Here, some servers are free of cost, some servers are commercial. Okay, WebLogic, WebSphere, commercial servers. We need to purchase them. But Tomcat, JBoss, Glassfish, these are free. You can download them and you can use it for free of cost. This WebLogic server given by Oracle company, it is commercial server. WebSphere server given by IBM company, that is also commercial server. So here, these servers we need to purchase, WebLogic and WebSphere. But Tomcat, JBoss, Glassfish, these are free servers. We can download them and we can use them, right? When we are going to start our web application development, so first we need to understand web application architecture. So web application architecture mainly contains two actors. One is client, another one is server. So who is called as client and what is called as a server? Client means a person or system which will send the request to access a web application. So clients will use browsers to send the request from Google, from Firefox, from Windows. Explorer is gone. That Edge browser is available, Safari browser is available. So there are so many browsers are in the market. By using that browser, we can send a request to the server. So when we send a request to the server, server will process that request. What is the meaning of request processing? What is the meaning of request processing? Executing the code. So suppose if a client asks to register, so take the data from the registration form, store into database table and send the response back to the client. That is called request processing. Client clicked on login button. He entered username and password, clicked on login button. So whenever you click on the login button, request will go to server. Server will take the data from the form. It will process that. That means our code will be executed. Server basically will execute the code which we developed in our web application and it will send the response back to client. Client will send a request. Server will process that request and the server will send response to the client. Multiple users can send a request to server at a time. That means web application, right? Multiple users can access at a time. Now here, if we look at the diagram, we are going to develop a project. Our project, nothing but Java programs will be available. Along with the Java programs, some web components also will be available, like images, some CSS files, some bootstrap files, some HTML pages, like Java programs will be available and the web content also will be available. Those are Java programs we will compile. We will develop .java programs. Those Java programs will be compiled into .class file. The .class files will contain the bytecode. Those .class files we will package as a jar or var. If it is a standalone project, if it is executing from main method, then we will package as a jar file. If it is a web application, if it is a servlet application, if it is a JSP application, we will package that as a var file. So whatever the var we created, can JVM run the var file? JVM can run only .class file. JVM cannot run the var file. So who can run the var file? Var file will be executed by server. So that means we need to keep our var file inside the server. The process of keeping the var file inside the server is called as a deployment. What it is called? Deployment. We need to deploy web application into server. What is the meaning of deployment? The process of keeping var file inside the server is called deployment. So in this advanced Java course, we are going to learn manual deployment. But in the industry, automated deployments are how deployments will be automated. There is a software called Jenkins. So by using Jenkins, we can automate the deployment also. That is in the frameworks, we are going to understand all that parts. Now we are going to learn manual deployment only. Manually, I will package my project as a var file. Manually, I will deploy my var file into server. When it comes to the module 3, we will use all the real-time tools like GitHub, Maven, Gradle, Jenkins. Everything we are going to automate. Everything we are going to automate in the coming sessions. But in these servlets, we will see only manual deployment process. Are you clear? Right. Next, note down. Web application after pack web. I mean, 1 second. You have taken the diagram, right? Yeah. Steps to develop web applications. Steps to develop web applications. Steps to develop web applications. Set up server software. Set up server software. set up server software. That means we need to download and install. Okay, download and set up server software in the sense download and install. Set up server software, nothing but we need to download and we need to install that server in our machine. Create web project, create web project using IDE. Create web project, that is a dynamic web project. Create dynamic web project using IDE. You can use Eclipse or IntelliJ or Spring Tool Suite, any Java IDE we can use to develop our dynamic web applications. Create a dynamic web project using IDE. Create a dynamic web project using IDE. Create dynamic web project using IDE. Develop required servlet classes. Develop required servlet classes. Set up server software, nothing but download and install. Create dynamic web project using IDE. Then develop required servlet classes. So we can create multiple classes also, like login servlet, welcome servlet, greet servlet. You can create any number of servlets in the program. So develop required servlet classes. Develop required servlet classes. Guys, one more thing is, 1 minute guys. Set up build path. Third step is just set up build path for required libraries. Third step is that we need to set the build path first. Set up build path for required libraries. How we set up the build path for MySQL connector? Similarly, servlet API jar file will be available. We need to set the build path for that. That is servlet-api.jar. Set up build path for required libraries. After creating the project, we need to add the jar files to the build path. Set up build path for required libraries. Set up the build path for required libraries. Create servlet classes. Create servlet classes. We can create any number. We can create any number of servlets. Create servlet classes. Create servlet classes. Map servlets to map servlet classes to URL patterns. That means when you click login button, which servlet should execute? When you click register button, which servlet should execute? For every servlet, one URL should be available. That is called URL pattern. Map servlet classes to URL patterns. Every servlet should have unique URL pattern. Every servlet should have unique URL pattern in the project. Login servlet, registration servlet, forgot password servlet, dashboard servlet, profile servlet. Right? You can create multiple servlets. Every servlet should have its own URL pattern. Every servlet should have its own URL pattern. set up server software. That is the first step. We need to download and we need to install. Then create dynamic web project using IDE. Once the project is created, we need to add the jar files to the build path. Which is jar file? Servlet-api.jar file we are going to add. Then create servlet classes. Whatever the servlets are required, we need to create those servlet classes. How many servlets we can create in a project? Multiple, like login servlet, registration servlet, forget password, like that you can create any number of servlets in the project. And when you create a servlet, every servlet should have a URL, because when you go for any web application, if you see in the Zoom, when I click on profile, can you see the URL pattern is changed? Yes, when I click on the profile, URL pattern change. That means that is one servlet. It loaded one web page. When I click on meetings, then again you see that URL pattern is changed. That means when I click on the profile servlet will be called. When I click on meetings servlet will be called. When I click on webinar servlet will be called. That means when user click one button, for that button, which servlet should execute in the server. That mapping should be done by using URL pattern. So URL pattern is used to identify which servlet should execute for which request. Able to understand? When I send a request www.abc.com/welcome, then welcome servlet should execute. When I send a request with /greet servlet should execute. When I send a request with login servlet should execute. When I send a request with register servlet should be executed. So here URL mapping to the servlet is very, very important. Map servlet classes to URL patterns. Every servlet should have unique URL pattern in the project. Now, how we are going to do? For example, I want to have login URL /login I will map to login servlet. Okay, and here I will have /register. This one I will map to register servlet. So here I will have dashboard will be available. To display the dashboard content, there will be one dashboard servlet in the project. Like this, we can have 100 servlets also in the project, 1000 servlets also in the project. Every servlet should have a URL pattern. What is the purpose of that URL pattern? What is the purpose of that URL pattern? Come on. What is the purpose of that URL pattern? URL pattern is nothing but address of the servlet. URL pattern is nothing but address of the servlet. If I want to access a servlet, I should know URL pattern of the servlet. Now, tomorrow, when we are developing our front end, when I click on meetings, how meetings are loading here? That means there is a meeting servlet in the server. When I click on reports, what is happening? Reports page is loading. So for every option, there will be a mapping in the back end. When user click one button in the front end, that front end button will access a servlet in the back end by using servlet address. That servlet address is called as URL pattern. Okay. If you go to any website now, when you click on online training, what is the meaning of that? It will access online training servlet in the back end. When I click on courses offering, one more servlet will be executed. When I click on dashboard, one more servlet will be executed. So my project is nothing but collection of web pages. In these web pages, for every web page, there is a backend servlet. When you click some option in the web page, then directly request will go to servlet in the backend. In my project, 1000 servlets available. In my front end, so many options are available. When I click on profile, how it will execute only profile servlet? There are 100 servlets. There are 10 servlets. Here there are 10 options available. When I click on settings, how it is opening only settings data? Why it is opening settings data? There is a mapping between front end web page and back end servlet. How that mapping is happening? Based on servlet URL pattern. Whenever we develop multiples, any servlet, either you develop one servlet, or you develop 10 servlet, or you develop 100 servlet. Every servlet should have its own URL pattern. In order to access a servlet, we need to know the URL of the servlet. That servlet URL is called address of the servlet. My front end application should know address of the servlet. Then only my front end application can send a request to server. Hey server, execute login servlet. Hey server, execute profile servlet. Hey server, execute registration servlet. Like this, my front end application will tell which is servlet it has to execute in the back end by using the URL of the servlet. So we can develop multiple servlet classes. Those servlet classes should be mapped to a URL pattern. As of now, we created a Java program with the main method. When I execute Java space class name, JVM will identify the main method, JVM will execute the main method. But in the servlet, there is no main method. We are not going to write a main method. Then how our servlet will execute? Server should execute that servlet. How server will understand which servlet to execute? I need to give the URL pattern to the server. Hey server, execute login servlet. Hey server, execute registration servlet. When I click a button, a request will go to the servlet based on the URL pattern. Based on the URL pattern, server will identify which is servlet it has to execute. If I keep same URL pattern for two servers, what will happen? If I keep same URL pattern for two servlets, then what will happen? Come on, man. Ambiguity. What will happen? Ambiguity. What is the meaning of ambiguity? Ambiguity means confusion. So if two servlets are available with the same URL pattern, login servlet is available, another demo servlet is available, both are having the URL pattern as login. When I send a request to the login, server should execute which is servlet? Confusion. So that's why what we need to do? Every servlet should have unique URL pattern in the project. So whenever you develop a servlet, that servlet should be mapped to a URL pattern, and every servlet should have the unique URL pattern. So what are the steps we need to follow? First, we need to set up the server software. We need to download the server and we need to install the server. Create a dynamic web project by using IDE. Set up a build path for the libraries. Whatever the libraries are required to develop the web application, we can keep those libraries in the build path. Then create servlet classes to handle our request and response. Create servlet classes to handle request and response. Servlet is the program which will take your request and which will send the response to you. Create servlet classes to handle request and response. Create servlet class to handle request and response. Then next one, map the servlet classes to URL pattern. Every servlet should have unique URL pattern in the project like this. /login, that should go to login servlet. /register, it should go to register servlet. /dashboard, it should go to dashboard servlet. Completed? Right. Next one. Compile our source code. Compile our source code. Compile our source code. compile our source code. We can generate, IDE also will generate. Compile our source code. Compile our source code. Dot class files will be created. When we compile our source code, servlet nothing but a Java program only. So that will be compiled into that class file. Compile our source code, that class files will be created. That class files will be created. Then next one, package dot class files as var file. Package dot class files as var file. Package dot class files as var file. Var stands for web archive. Var means web archive. Var means web archive. Package dot class files as var file. Var means web archive. Var means web archive. Deploy var file into server. Deploy var file in 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 server. Keeping the var file in the server is called as deployment. Keeping the var file in the server for execution is called as deployment. Keeping the var file in the server for execution is called as deployment. Keeping the var file in the server for execution is called as deployment. Completed. Next point. Once application is deployed in the server, once application deployment is completed, once application deployment completed, then we can access our application in the browser using application URL. Once application deployment completed, then we can access our application in the browser using application URL. Once application deployment completed, then we can access our application in the browser using application URL. Once application deployment completed, then we can access our application in the browser using application URL. Completed, guys. Yeah, read the steps once. Steps to develop web applications. Come on, fast. Fast, guys, read it. Guys, this is the format of the URL to access our application. http:// machine IP. So in which machine the server is running, that machine IP address / server port. So Tomcat server will run on the port number 8080 / application name / URL pattern. We are configuring some URL pattern, right? Using that URL pattern, we can access our servlets. Yeah, next note down. Redeployment. Deploying the latest work file into the server is called as redeployment. Redeployment. Deploying latest war file into server is called as redeployment. Undeploy. Removing war file from server is called as undeployment. Deploying the latest war file into server is called as redeployment. Removing war file from server is called as undeployment. Fine. Good. Are you clear with what is web application and what are the steps we need to follow to develop a web application? Yes. So in order to develop the web application, first we need to set up server software. So there are some paid servers are available. There are some free servers also available. Download and install the server, then create dynamic web application by using IDE. Set up a build path for required libraries. So to develop servlet based web application, servlet API jar file is required. We connected with MySQL database. For that, we used MySQL connector. Similarly, to develop the servlet application, servlet jar file is required. Create servlet classes to handle request and response. One application can have multiple servlets also. Once we create the servlet, we need to map the servlets to URL pattern. Can we use same URL pattern for more than one servlet? No, ambiguity problem will come. Every servlet should have its own URL pattern. And once the servlet classes are completed, we need to compile the source code. Servlet is also a Java program, so we need to compile our source code. Then dot class files will be created. Once the dot class files are created, we need to package the dot class files as a war file. War stands for web archive. It contains dot class files and web content will be available. HTML, JavaScript, CSS, Bootstrap, everything will be part of that web content. So once the war file is created, we need to deploy the war file in the server. What is the meaning of deployment? What is the meaning of deployment? Keeping the war file in the server is called as deployment. Keeping the war file into server is called as deployment. So here now in the servlet course, we are doing that manual deployment. In future, we are going to do automated deployment. Now, once the project deployment is completed, then we need to access the project in the browser by using project URL. What is the format of the URL? http:// server machine IP. That means in which computer that server is running, that machine IP address, port number of the server, then name of the application, then URL pattern of your servlet. Okay, so that like that we 100 files. Again, it is going. Yeah, right. So my project is having 100 classes. Out of 100 classes, I modified only one class. So then what we need to do? We are going to redeploy the entire war. Yeah. So in the real time, there is a concept called hard deployment is available. Can you tell me what is a hard deployment? Deploying only modified files in the server. Instead of redeploying the entire war file, we can deploy only modified files in the server. That is called as hard deployment. Deploying only modified files in the server is called as hard deployment. Deployment, redeployment, undeployment, and hard deployment. Deploying latest war file into server is called as redeployment. Removing war file from server is called as undeployment. Deploying only modified files in the server is called as hard deployment. Right. So in the tomorrow session, we will discuss how to set up our server in the system and what is the folder structure of the server and how can we change how can we play with the server, that we are going to discuss in the tomorrow class. Tomorrow 4 o'clock class is available, 4 to 5:30 this class is available, and 7:30 online workshop is available for the Gradle. Tomorrow 2 classes. Fine. Thank you guys. Regular class is there at 4 o'clock and 7:30 online workshop is also available. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.